So that ability to work with the wood allowed me to work with wood. Instead of making planes, I handcrafted back to life some of the extinct instruments. Now when I spoke to you about the strain of learning, the strain of affinity with how things were, I disallowed luthiers, modern instrument makers, who said, oh, bring your ancestral instruments, we'll make a copy of that. I said, sorry, but, have you learned how to make it? He says, no. I said, so I won't allow you. How would you know, okay, it's an instrument for you, it's just a shape. He says, oh, what else there? I said, no, but what was the bridge like? What were the strings like? Were they gut strings? What gut they were? What were the thicknesses? Do you know the tuning? Do you know how to play it? He says, no. How can you make? So you're not qualified to make one for me. It was a big problem. Until I found one man who had made these instruments last in 1948-49. He was an old man living in a small hermitage near Amritsar, near Golden Temple, and he happened to be this boy's grandfather, Parminder's maternal grandfather. And he had made these for his teacher, and he had studied it from some of the finest instrument makers. So I said, well, it'll be great if you could make me one of each of them. He says, oh, my bow has wilted now. He says, I'm an old man. It's a typical Kenneth Mary Kamani Taggy. My bow, which is the strength, human strength is wilted, so I'm like this now. So I can do it. So I said, oh, my hands in your wisdom. He said, oh, you're a city boy. You speak English. How can you work with the tools? It was very beautiful, my first conversation with him. But I said, come on, trust me. I'm not bad. And it ended up. So some of the most beautiful instruments which had died down have been revived. That's how I got to revive them. But now there are new claimants of having revived instruments. So people, now there's another school, Badu Sahab Vakal Academy. They go to a shop. I'll be showing you a couple of small films on them, if there is time eventually. And they go and buy an instrument without asking, did you ever learn how to... The questions which I ask them, they don't ask. Say, oh, you made a taus. It's a look-alike, of course. It's like those Saddam Husseins in Iraq. Few of them they have. So that the actual one you can't catch. So it was like that. The taus is there. So they say, all right, you know what? Okay, we take it, we bring it, and we keep them here, and they say, oh, we have revived the instruments. Says, oh, wow, how? Oh, look how children play. So they don't know. It's also another problem in India. People don't understand the difference between renovation and restoration. I'm being a conservator, I'm fighting, banging my head on the wall. I said, excuse me, Golden Temple, you remove the gold plating, the whole old plaster has come off which had frescoes on it, and they scrub it and they put cement on it. It's a 400-year-old structure which was built by my ancestors. From the 3rd to the 10th Guru, all his construction was done by my ancestor. So I know the lime structure, blah, 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 how it was there. So on lime structure, they're putting plaster. I said, but what are you doing? He says, it's an old house, we have to renew it. And they put marble on it. They don't realize that a particular building, the way when you build it, you already think how it should be. The aging process, they don't know that lime has what age lime mortar would have versus cement mortar. So they don't know what is renovation and restoration. And likewise, they don't know what is revival and purchasing an instrument from the market, howsoever it is being built, and you play it and it's revival. They forget that in the late 80s when I began, nobody knew the name Taus. Within the Sikhs, people used to be shocked when I used to say Drupad. This is Guru Arjan's Drupad. They would say, what is Drupad? Now things have changed. So many people say, oh, Drupad, saying, so Baldeep Singh is now lost in the chaos. And he says, all right, let them be. It's all right now. It's fine. Let them be. Okay? So, the musical instruments used in the Gurbani, as I mentioned, the students will, okay, we engaged in it. My presentation, keynote, of course, the software that I use, not PowerPoint, it's about 10 hours long. Just the dialogue, my presentation on that. Of course, I've given it at the Conservatorio di Frosinone. they've had full-length 10-hour presentations just on instruments. When I taught about 35 hours in 3 days, 10 hours, 10, 12 hours each day. So I showed them some briefs on that. And what was that? Okay, I'll be talking about U theory anyway. And the parallel advent of percussion along the Shabad beat and its place in the performance of Gurbani Kirtan, distinct performing style contra other percussive styles. Again, a brief note on this, that the status of percussion within the Gurbani Kirtan tradition is totally different than the status of a percussionist in any other musical genre in India. They were lesser mortals. In a classical music stage, the singers would sit on the stage and the percussionists, the drummers, would sit behind the stage and below. They would not be allowed to sit along. This was how it was. Whereas in the Golden Temple, along with the singers, the percussionists sat. But that was just, okay, physical placement, you may say. In a composition which was sung, the percussion from Chand Praband to Dhrupad or Dhurpad, the percussion also evolved parallel to that. In the sense that when the first refrain, or the asthai as we call it in Dhrupad language, which is the refrain or the chorus, when the chorus was sung, very particular repertoire of Pakhavaj evolved, which was played along with that only, and would not be played with the other 3 or more parts of the composition. The first stanza would have another particular style of evolution that happened in the percussive spectrum. So if I may give an example, the refrain, because it's a main idea being spoken, so they would not make too much sound. They said, okay, we cannot suddenly be dhagadha, dhagadha, dhidagadha, dhidagadha. It's too much noise. So the singer is not audible. So they play dha, dunge, nat, treta, kai, tragadhe, teta, dha, 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 ge, dha, ge, dha, ge, dha, dinta, ge, dha. So you see there's a lot of space in between the very loud sound and the what we call the pullit, the softer sounds. So that is when the chorus, the first and the main central idea within the composition, is presented to the audience. And then when it is repeated after every stanza to break monotony of the song, because the chorus is the same, the song's not going to change. So then they created a spectacle on the percussion. It was very interesting how aesthetically it evolved. It had aesthetical, compulsions, or if I may say requirements, which they did. So every 4 more parts of the composition had its own particular treatment on the percussion. Is something which has not been talked about until we guys came along.